Welcome to the Market Frontlines. I'm Lyndsay Malchuk. In this conversation, we're cutting straight through the chaos in AG innovation. Not buzzwords, not lab hype, and not future promises. This is real product with real demand and real pressure from global markets that are forcing agriculture to change how it grows, how it feeds, and how it sustains the planet. This is a company moving out of the lab and into the field, out of the theory and into revenue, and into a category that's becoming the fastest growing segment inside a $380 billion global agriculture market. I'm sitting down with Colin Bletsky, COO of MustGrow Biologics. Now, hello, Colin. It's great to meet you and have you here with us on the show today.
Yes, nice to meet you as well, and thank you for having me.
Well, I'm going to kick it off right here into high gear. And, when you look at biologicals becoming the fastest growing segment in global agriculture, the real question investors are all asking quietly is this one. Who actually wins this market shift? And pushing that a little further, what makes MustGrow structurally positioned to be one of the companies that capture scale instead of just attention?
So when you look at the biological space globally, one of the key challenges and the reason that we've seen these technologies not really accelerating growth over the past 2 or 3 decades is they have not truly been performing in the field. And that's what sets us apart from most technologies that are out there today, specifically in the biological space and I would say more on the sustainable side. What we do is we extract natural compounds from mustard, the same mustard that we eat, the mustards that are used globally. We take those natural compounds and we're able to put them in a usable form that farmers can use and really compete directly with their synthetic pesticides or synthetic fertilizers. But the key point, Lyndsay, is when we utilize or farmers utilize our technologies, we actually have success in the field. We have very good levels of efficacy. We're showing that we can go through the same equipment that farmers use. And by doing this, you take away some of those barriers farmers typically had. So when I look at this, and I've been in that biological space now for over 20 years, I've been in agriculture for over 30. And when I see what we do compared to other companies, that's what sets us apart. Taking something that's natural, taking something that nature's giving us, putting it in a farm that farmers can use without having to change the way they do things. And the biggest part about it at the end is actually having success and having efficacy in the field.
Colin, I have to say, pretty catchy on the MustGrow with the mustard. Congratulations on that branding right there.
Thank you. That was I think that was an afternoon session at a local pub when we came up with that name.
Well, go back to that local pub because, wow, that's pretty catchy. Now, I'm going to shift gears here a bit. MustGrow has spent years building over 100 patents and deep R&D infrastructure. Now you're pivoting into commercialization. That transition is where a lot of companies tend to fall off. So what is the hardest part of turning science into a scalable business? I mean, I can imagine that you have had to change internally so many things to make that shift real.
You know what? I'm gonna actually be honest. Internally, it hasn't been the biggest challenge. It's been external. And in agriculture, we're heavily regulated, whether that be with the EPA in the US or PMR here in Canada or other global bodies. So when we look at the transition from the true R&D, building the patents, building our portfolio and pipelining, really understanding the technology and moving up to commercialization, first it was waiting for those registrations. Now that we have the registrations, it's now about taking our products and working with local retails and farmers and showing them the value. And I think that's where, if you look at a lot of companies, that's where they fail. There are a lot of biological companies globally, and this is an area where you see a lot of companies not being able to move it to that next stage. So what we've done and what we do, I believe, maybe a little bit differently is we try work directly and handhold the growers. And these are growers right across the west coast of the US, growers in Canada, and we're actually now working with growers globally to show them the value on their farm, show them how to utilize our technology, and do it in a more scientific way. So we're taking what we know, what we've learned with all those patents, with the science, and bringing it to their farm with a solution that can help them and solve most of the many challenges that they have. And I think that's where we started. 2024, we launched our first product in the US called TerraSante, and last year, and actually in 2025, we've been sold out since June of that year, and we're just now building inventory. And the acceleration point's been a lot better. We've been getting great success in the field, as I talked about before, the efficacy. We're seeing really good levels of efficacy across the West Coast in many different crops. And that's driving that sales, sales generation and sales penetration. But it all comes down to showing the farmer the science, showing the farmer the value on their farm, working with them, working with their retail system, and working with the key influencers. And that's where I think, it's a slow process, but we're starting to see that ramp up now. And that's why we're so excited and moving this forward.
Well, I mean, I want to keep going with that, TerraSante. You launched, as you said, in 2024. You also said you're already sold out, already pulling demand faster than inventory can keep up. That's pretty rare. So, Colin, let's be blunt here. Is this a demand problem or a supply problem?
You know what? I think I would say it would say demand, maybe a demand acceleration. It's not a problem. Listen, we're sold out. Many companies would love to be in our position. You're better off being sold out than you are having a whole bunch of inventory and not selling it. So for us, it was just a matter that the technology worked better than we expected, and the I would say the uptake was a lot more accelerated, a lot quicker than we anticipated. And being a small organization, we run our cash very tight. We run it lean. We wanted to make sure that we were seeing that demand with the farmers in the local level, and specifically right now it's in the U.S., in California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, into Arizona. We wanted to see that demand first before we put a lot of our equity into that inventory. Now that we're seeing that growth, now that we're seeing that is hence why we've just done this capital raise to go and build those inventories, start generating more of those, that turnover, getting more sales, and do that cycle. Being a small company and we have to be careful. We knew our technology worked, but you still have to make sure you see efficacy in the field, and that's where we see it. And I would say, I think a lot of small companies would be envious of where we are today. As I mentioned, being sold out is a lot better position than being into the having a whole bunch of inventory and not being able to sell it.
Of course. So how fast can MustGrow realistically scale in production without losing that quality or momentum then?
Yeah, so we are in that process now, and we do production right now in Asia, so in Thailand and India, and our two contract manufacturers are building capacity, moving from a batch process, which was smaller scale, to more of a continuous process, which is going to get us into that scope and scale to hit the markets that we can. And that lead up time is ongoing. We're doing it now, and we fully see us hitting the timelines for that U.S. marketplace this year. Specifically looking at the potato plantings that are going to be happening across the West Coast and the North and into Idaho, as well as the strawberries and leafy greens that are going to be going in and getting treated right through from end of March all the way through until the end of the year. So we do see us building up that inventory now that we do have a bit of that capital to go in and have that flexibility. We are taking that aggressive stance to build up our inventory for that U.S. marketplace. And, that's the U.S. We are seeing a lot of interest around the globe with this technology too. So, I'm not going to say we're never going to run out again. I hope we do, because we have a lot of capacity now. But for the most part, we're in a very good spot, I believe, to hit the U.S. market, hit it running, build up those sales, and actually start working with a broader base of customers as well.
Well, then let's lead right into that bigger global picture. Then regulations are tightening, farmers are under pressure to reduce synthetic inputs, and customers are demanding cleaner solutions. I know for me, I'm constantly looking, how is this basically farm to table? So everyone says global expansion, yet very few execute it very well. Beyond North America, where does MustGrow actually see commercial traction first?
Yeah, so U.S. is first. Going after that, we will be looking and starting the process now in Canada, but we're also doing work into the European Union, into Australia and South America. So in each one of those cases, Lyndsay, it's about showing the value on those farms, showing the value in the local soil zones. And we've done work with other technologies, but we now have to show with TerraSante. And that's the process we're in. So I would say if I have my way, it will be, I believe, Canada into the Netherlands. I look into other parts of the EU, going down into South America, specifically Brazil, Chile, Peru, Mexico, and then into Australia, which has a tremendous need for these types of products, and then into Southeast Asia. So, being a small company, we want to get the US right first. It's a significantly large market with a lot of potential for us. We want to get that right first, but we're always doing this extra work to continue to see where else we can expand. And I would say, looking at it, it's going to be depending on the country, depending on the crops, depending on the customers we're working with, but we do have good connections and trials ongoing in other parts of the world as we sit today.
So is the U.S. market the one that's showing the real buying behavior instead of just interest, or is there other ones that are also following suit?
No, there's other ones following suit. I would say the U.S. market's just accelerated based on our registrations and based on the data we're showing already and based on the local use rates. The U.S. is a very large market when it comes to high-value fruit and vegetables and potatoes. You're looking at roughly 5.6 million acres. So I have to always convert this back for my European friends, but that's roughly about 2.7 million hectares, which is a significant size. And for us to penetrate and hit $100 million revenue, we only have to penetrate 3% of that entire market. So it's something for us that there's a tremendous opportunity in the U.S. So we're really taking an aggressive approach both on inventory. We're going to take an aggressive approach on marketing, on customer support. But that doesn't stop our business development going into other areas. So when we see it, the European Union is putting a lot of regulations when it comes to synthetic fertilizers and synthetic chemistries. There's already been a significant amount of bans when it comes to the chemicals in that area. And it seems once Europe does something, over time that happens in other jurisdictions. And we do see that really driving that global uptick for biologicals and mainly regenerative products.
Well, let's bookend this conversation here, Colin, around your partnership with Bayer and AIM, or AEME. I mean, that's a serious validation signal, very serious, not a press release partnership, this is like a real strategic partnership. So here's the investor question nobody seems to be asking directly. Does MustGrow see itself as a long-term independent global platform, or is this the kind of company that eventually becomes an acquisition target in the consolidation of AG biologicals?
Yeah, so in the agriculture space, consolidation always happens, and we're seeing it every year, monthly, in every different type of area. I would say the one shift I've seen from all the acquisitions I've done in the past, in my past careers, the one difference is you have to de-risk your asset and you have to de-risk what you're doing. And that's what we're taking. We're building value for our shareholders. We're building value for our company by showing how our technology works in markets, by building sales and by expanding that. We have that partnership with Bayer. They're a tremendous company. They have a very good focus on biologicals and they want to get better. They want to change what they're doing and amend it. What we're helping them with and being able to work with them on gives them that access to this natural technology that can have an impact on their portfolio. So do I think we're a potential acquisition target in the future? Definitely. Do I think most companies potentially are? Yes. But the difference that's happened over the past decade and mainly last 5 years in agriculture is you need to de-risk that asset. Companies like Bayer would rather spend $200, $300, $500 million on buying an organization 5 years later when it's de-risked than spending 20, 30, 40, or 50 million now. It's all about de-risking that asset, showing sales, showing validity around your product. And I think that's the benefit we have. We have the relationship with Bayer. They would not have signed that agreement with us if they did not see efficacy, if they did not see an opportunity for them to take that product and deliver it into the marketplace in a good way. So that gives us, as you mentioned, that gives us that kind of feather in our cap, validation that our technology works. The second part now with TerraSante is we are seeing market acceptance. We are seeing us being sold out, and we're seeing tremendous yield benefits in crops. And to me, that's one of those key areas of de-risking our asset and de-risking our company and technologies.
Well, Colin, I mean, that's all the time we have now. Yeah, there's so much information here, and I know I've been taking some pretty clear notes. So I want to circle back and have you back and really delve deeper into this soon. Thank you again for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, Lyndsay.
Again, that was Colin Bletsky, COO of MustGrow Biologics, a company moving from lab breakthroughs to sold-out projects, capturing the fastest-growing segment of global agriculture. They're trading on the venture under MGRO and on the Frankfurt under 020. If you want to see how mustard-based technology is changing the future of farming, get away from the hot dog and go check them out at mustgrow.ca. I'm Lyndsay Malchuk with Appeton Media, and this has been the Market Frontlines. Stay sharp, stay informed, and stay connected right here. We'll see you next time.